Howdy, howdy, Chris here, and on today's episode of Garage Noise, we're going to straighten this nasty dent to primer on this Ford F-150. So let's dig in and get started. Now this particular Ford was built before they started putting aluminum bedsides on their trucks. If this was aluminum, we'd be replacing this bedside, but because it's steel, we're going to knock it out and repair it. This dent covers a large surface area, and it's got a crown up at the top, and then it's got some body lines that have been pushed in down at the bottom. Now, most of the damage has been created from this body line, where it got hit on that body line, sucked in that panel, created the crowns, and did most of the damage. If you have a large dent like this, sometimes you can get lucky, and most of the energy is stored in one specific spot. So you push that spot out, and 80% of the dent pops out. This bedside is made with some high-strength steel, and it's got multiple impact points, so it's probably just not going to pop out. So I removed the taillight, and it's given me some access behind this panel. So now I'm going to use my heavy-duty PDR bar and push out some of these dents. Now we're looking for that one push that's going to pop out most of this dent. I'm testing out the metals here with a couple pushes on this small dent, but my main goal is to push out that body line. Now that's going to be some high strength area there because it's got those body lines, and it's going to be hard to push out. But I know this body line is holding most of the energy of this dent. So if I can get that out, then a lot of this dent should pop out. I'm doing a few pushes on this body line, and I just can't get the results or the leverage I need to get that dent out. So I'm going to have to use the porta power. So I'm going to switch my focus and move to the top of this bedside and start working this dent. The main part of this bedside is a lot more flexible and can be manipulated a lot better with this large PDR tool. So while I'm putting pressure on this panel, I'm going to have Darius tap down that high area, and you can see it right in the light there. That's where that crown is. Putting pressure on the dent and tapping down the crown is going to allow that metal to release. And there we get a good result. That's what we were looking for. Now we need to move to the back part of this dent by the tail light. We're going to tap down some crowns, and I'm going to work the edge of this tail light. There's a good crease right along that tail light. When I put pressure on a dent and push it out and then it flexes back, that means that there's being energy held somewhere in a form of a crown or somewhere that metal's been stretched. So as I'm pushing, I'm looking for the crown that's holding that energy. In this case, that is going to be that body line. So we need to attack that body line and get that body line out because it's affecting the upper part of this bedside. I tried pushing that body line a little bit more, and then I had Darius get on the backside and try and hammer it out, but it wasn't budging. So we're going to need to use the porta power. Okay, so I really need to try and get this body line out. We've hit it with hammers and stuff, so it's been very difficult to come out. So I'm going to use this porta power here. This is a hydraulic jack or porta power, and what I'll do is put it from the frame rail over to here and just push that out. It really doesn't have to come out that far. Now that we have the lower portion of this bedside straightened out, we're going to use the large PDR tool and push some of these larger dents. We'll knock down the crowns with a slapper tool, a spoon, and a hammer, and we'll get this panel straightened out enough that we can grind it down to bare metal and fine tune it with the G90E. So let's get that done. Now that we have this bedside ground down to bare metal, we're going to spray a little guide coat on it. This is going to expose any high or low areas that need to be addressed before we use the filler. So we'll block over it with some 180 grit sandpaper, and then we'll use the G90E to fine tune these dents and get them as straight as possible before we put the filler down. Now we're ready to lay some body filler on the top portion of this quarter panel or bedside. Okay, so we have a little issue that we need to address. For the most part, this is pretty firm, especially up here. Up here it's firm, but I get down right there. I don't like that much flex before I put filler in this. It's a little bit tin canny. I mean, I have to push a little bit hard, but right here is the spot. So what we're going to do is we're going to heat shrink this metal. And what that's going to do is tighten up that metal, firm it up, so when we apply filler, we don't have any flex in that panel. You're going to heat up a small spot, you hammer it in, and then you hammer down the outside of it, and that will tighten up that metal and firm it up. So let's give that a shot. Let's heat this up real quick. It won't take much. Okay, that's much better. We heated up the center, and I tried with the flat part of the hammer, but it worked a little bit better with the point and then hammer down the edge. You want to hammer around the edge, and that helps that metal to shrink into that hot area. Okay, and that has stiffened up this panel, created a little bit of a low spot that we're going to be able to fill very easily. The heat shrinking created a little bit of a low spot, so I'm going to take my toe dolly, put it behind the panel, and then I'm going to flatten it out with my hammer and dolly and get that as straight as possible before we lay this filler in. You want to hear that metal. Now we're going to put in the first coat of filler. So I've mixed up some filler. You want to mix it up till it's all one uniform color. And your first coat of filler, you want to press it in a little bit so it gets good adhesion to that metal and fills all those low areas. The first coat of filler on a large dent like this, we're just looking to fill all the low areas. We are going to rasp this with a body rasp to remove any excess filler before we lay our second coat. In order to get this panel as straight as possible, I'm going to use my rasp kind of like a block. I'm going to use it in the crosshatch pattern to get this panel as straight as possible before we lay our next coat of filler. As you can see, rasping it knocks down all those high areas. So the filler that's sitting on a high area, it's going to knock it down, and you can see it exposes a little low area. So there's a little low area there. There's a little low area there. There's the filler down there. So you only leave probably about 20% of the filler on the panel, if that. We won't rasp it the second time because we've got the preliminary straightening of this panel done. It has these teeth on it that cut into the body filler. I like the half round. In order to get this done quickly, we're going to go over it with the orbital sander and some 80 grit just to flatten this out, start getting it shaped and prepared for the second coat of filler. Now, I will want to feel over this after I'm done and look for any high areas that need to be tapped down, any high metal that I think is going to create a problem after we put our second coat of filler. Then I'll go over the surrounding area with 80 grit sandpaper on the orbital sander. This is going to prep it out for filler because I do put my filler over the edge of the paint. Now I'll apply the second coat of filler over the entire repair area, and then we'll be able to block it straight. I am using the Rage Ultra on this repair. In order to cut this body filler quickly, I'm going to use some 36 grit sandpaper on a long block and shape this panel. Now we will have to remove these 36 grit scratches and get them down to 320 before we primer. I'm going to use another coat of filler on some of these low areas. There's a few little low areas left that need to be addressed. We're going to spot fill those and then block over it. And then we'll use some icing to coat the entire panel to fill any scratches that we might have missed and help just fine tune this body panel. Now we've applied a coat of polyester glazing putty over this entire repair area. This is going to fill any little waves or any deep scratches that we might have missed in the blocking process. I use a product called Icing. It's a really good, easy sandable product, and if you're curious about any of the tools or products I use, check out my storefront. The link is in the description. But this has given us a nice straight panel. It's free from any deep scratches, and it's going to help us get it prepared for primer. Now I'm going to machine sand over it with some 320 grit sandpaper over the body filler and some 600 over the rest of the panel itself. So when we apply our primer, if we get some outside of the repair area, we're going to have good adhesion with that primer. We'll mask everything off and get it ready to spray. Now I'm going to apply 2 coats of 2K urethane primer. This is a catalyzed primer that hardens over the repair area. The product I'm using today is the Roberlo ME1. This is a nice, easy sandable primer, and it also is a direct-to-metal primer. So any bare metal areas, we don't have to be concerned about adhesion with this primer. If you enjoy this content and want to see more, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell notification. If you want to see how we finish up this repair, check out next week's video, and we'll be blocking this out, painting and clearing it. I'll show you exactly how we do it. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Garage Noise.